everybody to a very special Horror Nights. I have to say, it's a very special episode because it's the first person that I've had on that does this. And I have to say, without this particular part, a horror movie could be a comedy movie, a horror movie could be bland as anything, or it can be the most intense movie you've ever seen. And that's the guy that puts the music all together and makes it sound good. Welcome, Bobby Carra, to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I appreciate good sound. I mean, I know what it takes to even sound a short film. It's intensive because you're lining things up. You're doing
Yeah.
soundtracks, but you
Oh,
also
yeah.
need the ambience. And then if you don't, you're incorporating ambience, but you have to still make it sound correct. And you got a million lines of different audio bites, and they all got to be
Yep.
mixed, and
No, absolutely, man.
it all comes together.
Yeah, it's a juggling act, but it's something that if you're really enjoying doing it, and you got the skill level in it, but it's also something that, yeah, it takes time, but you're fine with putting that time in. Not only is it doable, but it's also something that it's work, but it's not.
It is. Let me ask you something. Were you a musician prior to getting into horror music, or were you just?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm a bass player as well. I play other instruments too, but that's my main instrument. And I got a background where I studied music composition, and I did that officially in a school. But even before that, I was playing gigs, and I was taking private lessons, and so I learned a lot of stuff as far as jazz goes, and as far as jazz fusion, and a lot of prog rock and metal and stuff like that. And then at the exact same time, while playing all that kind of stuff, I also was playing a lot of old school Motown R&B and soul and stuff like that too. So I kind of did a little bit of everything, but I always loved film oriented stuff, even if it wasn't something that I realized I was going to do. And it was one of the things that circumstances kind of lined up to where I ended up getting onto a film a couple of years ago to do that. And it was one of these things to where I kind of just fell right in place, to where it was like, okay, I want to try my hand at this. And I really, something's pushing me to do it. Circumstances worked out. And it was one of these things that just felt very, very comfortable. I had to get used to the program I was using and stuff like that. But as far as once I got past that stuff, it kind of felt like something I had always been doing because of all the other music that I'd been working on prior, even if it was a different genre.
No, I mean that's great, and I mean I could sing you three tunes, Vic, and you could probably tell me their movies. A song or the intro to a horror movie. Its theme song is almost as iconic as the character. I mean, look at
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Look at as simple as just the cha cha cha. That's actually a song like that. Somebody he wrote it out. I met the guy that did the Jason score,
It
and
took, yeah, Harry Manfredini. Yep.
It's not even about, what about Halloween?
Yeah.
John
Without
Carpenter did
the
it
iconic piano, would Michael Myers be as iconic as he
I
is?
don't think so. I don't. If without that music, I don't think that would have been the case. And it might have been a moderately successful movie, but I mean, by all accounts, whenever they've gone behind the scenes, they've talked about that. Where in test screenings, where they were just showing it to the producers and so on, they were just showing it to the other studio people. They hadn't added the music track in yet, and everyone was kind of like, "The hell is this? What am I watching?" And it didn't really come to life until a week or a couple of weeks or whatever it was later when Carpenter added the score to it. And the only reason he did it himself was out of practicality and necessity. There wasn't a budget to hire an
No, that
official
was an
composer.
indie film. He
Yeah.
saved money.
And well, the thing was, he had a musical background. He grew up doing that stuff, and so he was able to do it very easily. And by what he was saying, the synthesizer stuff, that stuff that is now kind of like his signature sound, it was something that developed because it was all he had available to him. But then after a while, it became a stylistic choice because it was kind of what he gravitated towards and got used to doing and became known for.
Yeah, he still does, I think, music concerts today. I think
Yeah,
he's performing in New
he's
York,
still
and
yeah, he still tours, and it's with his I believe his nephew and his son-in-law or something like that. But Cody Carpenter and Daniel Davies, the three of them, they perform as a trio. I don't know if they have anybody backing them, but they've been doing that on and off for a while. Every damn time I've missed them, but I've really wanted to catch that. The
yeah, I
one
was
band that
looking at it
I
because
oh yeah, the one film band that I got a chance to see was Goblin. It was Claudio Simonetti's version of Goblin. You familiar with those
oh
guys?
yes, I'm a good Suspiria fan, so
Oh,
yes,
okay. Oh, then you'll
good
like
stuff.
this. When I saw them, it was more than 5 years ago. It was back in early, like around October, November of 2018, and it was the concert where they actually played the entire film Suspiria on
So
screen
they did the
behind them.
film score live
Yep,
while
they
the
played
film is playing.
exactly. They played the entire score in real time, right in front of the screen. And I remember I was going to go. They were going to play at the Trocadero, which is here in Philly, and I wanted to bring my daughter with me. And unfortunately, it was one of these situations where it was 21 and over, and I couldn't bring her, so I had to wait a few weeks. We ended up going to a show in Brooklyn instead, and it was like a 2.5 or 3 hour drive for us at the time, but we ended up ultimately doing that, and it was a great show. We got the 4D experience because it was storming when we got there. By the time we pulled up to the place, it was like 2 or 3 inches of water already on the ground and torrential, and that's how that movie begins and ends. And so I like to say we got the 4D experience of the movie, and we got to meet the band too, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome, and I mean, I think it brings like a different ambience to a film. I mean, especially hearing it live. I mean, and not just in the horror world. I mean, imagine watching Star Wars with a live orchestra. You know, you
Yeah.
get such a different experience.
Absolutely. The guy who I've really wanted to see for a while because he tours a lot is Hans Zimmer. He has been
Okay.
touring all over the place for a good handful of years now when he's not actually working on scoring a film, and he'll have a full semi orchestra with him just about every single time. And it's an incredible performance. I've seen video footage of it, and every single time they might be close to where I am. It's just circumstantially, it's not in the cards for me. I'm like, ah, damn it, come on, man.
Oh, I hear you on that. I'm a big con guy, and I try to go around and meet all these people, and just sometimes I just don't line up,
Yeah, yeah.
or they're in but they could be right next door to me, and it's like, ugh, I'm in the wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like, yeah, I really can't do that this weekend, and that sucks, but that's reality, you know.
But one of my favorite, composers was a guy that kind of took, Diodatro's Cannibal Holocaust, looked at it, and was like, you know what, I'm gonna put like a very calm, serene soundtrack to this brutality and watch it shine. And I think that
Kind of
made the movie,
juxtapose it. Yeah,
yeah, it had that
there's
opposite effect, and I think it worked in that sense.
there's a weird irony to it. It kind of makes it, in certain circumstances, it makes it scarier. It makes it more unsettling because it's not what you would expect.
No, you're expecting these rises and these tension and this, and instead you're getting this harmony and peace. And it's like
Yeah,
my mind don't know how to perceive this. I don't know when to jump.
yeah, yeah. Well, a good example of that is the beginning, not the whole thing, but the beginning of the intro music to the original Amityville Horror that Lalo Schifrin did, because that's all in the major key. It sounds like it's supposed to be serene and peaceful at first, but you can already tell because of the kids' choir and stuff that there's something a little off about it. And then, of course, it switches keys and it starts to delve a little darker as it goes. But it starts off sounding like it would be, you know, some kind of a heartwarming drama film or something for at least the first 10 or 15 seconds of the music. It's
And
which I love that. I love when that happens.
yeah, I appreciate that switch up because I mean everyone's looking for that scary sound or like the scary effect, and that's almost at some points too easy
Well, the
because
big thing is sometimes it's too much. Like
that too.
it's kind of like a lot of metal bands. I love metal, and so when I'm saying this, I'm saying that there's a certain, you'll probably know what I'm talking about, um, but within the metal community and its 300,000 subgenres, you get your guys who you can tell know what they're doing a little more. They understand subtlety and how to kind of build and tension and release. But then there are the bands that try to do that in a very overt way, and it's more in your face, and it's kind of like the metal equivalent of, "Ooh, kids, isn't this scary?" And it becomes unintentionally like cheesy instead, and but not in a good way. It's not like a horror film that has camp that's supposed to be there. It's more like these guys were taking themselves seriously when they did this and don't realize that they kind of made it funny, you know?
I just want to ask, what when you say you like metal, what level? Because you have like all sorts of different like vibrations level.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like, are you like Megadeth, Bullet for My Valentine type metal, or just straight out, just like Anarchy Angel type level?
I'm into a little bit of everything. I'll just rattle off the names of some metal bands that I like, and I'll purposely mix it up a little bit. But for example, Insomnium, Omnium Gatherum, Mors Principium Est, Fear Factory, Mechana, Opeth, Persephone, Between the Buried and Me, Typo Negative, I still count as a metal band, Riverside, Earthside, in Old School In Flames, Children of Bodom, Dark Tranquility, what do you call it? Disillusion. I could probably keep going with that.
I'm a Lamb of God fan myself. I like Lamb of God.
Lamb of God's good.
Lamb of God's good. You listen to Soilwork by chance?
Yes, they're good as well.
Yeah,
I mean, I went through my whole metal phase of just like I used to go to. They used to have the Rockstar, tour every year, and all the Rockstar Energy Drink used to put on. So like every year they'd have these metal headlines. I've seen like Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, all these. But then before that, they would have just dozens of acts by different shows from everywhere from like Avenged Sevenfold to Behemoth to anything just going on.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
hits and such, and you just hear all these great bands and honestly, like the metal society or going to these metal like events is very similar to the horror con where everybody's
It's
kind of
very
family.
similar. Yeah, it is very, very similar. There's a lot of overlap. I caught on to that when I started going to cons here, and I was like, this kind of reminds me of the metal scene. Maybe not 100%, but there's a lot of overlap, and you see a lot of the same people, or at least the same type of person a lot.
Yeah,
of
the same vibe is there. The same family. We all belong. There's no like cliques really. We're here for the love of metal.
Yeah,
And the same thing
yeah,
with horror. We're here for the love of horror.
yeah,
Even if your horror is not my favorite horror, we're still here for the love of it.
yeah, yeah. I haven't been to a music festival in a while, but some metal ones that I loved. A great one was when Megadeth came around. Well, it was mid 2000s. The Gigantor. When I remember it was them, Dream Theater, and they had a whole bunch of other guys with them too. Fear Factory was there, Life of Agony was there. That was a really good lineup. And then a distinct memory of mine was this was going back. I'm taking it back more than 20 years ago, but you remember Metallica Tattoos the Earth?
Yeah.
I remember distinctly with that lineup because it was Metallica, Slayer, Sepultura, Slipknot, and Sevendust. And I went to Giant Stadium to go see that with a group of people. And I distinctly remember I was in the pit for like the entire time Slayer was on. That was where I put a lot of my energy in because I wasn't really going to go as crazy for Metallica. I was going to want to just kind of listen more. But then Slipknot came on. And I had it in mind to have some reserves to go a little nuts when they came on. But whoever was controlling the soundboard decided that the bass player hadn't gotten enough attention in a while and just cranked the bass up to the point that you couldn't really make out what was going on. You just heard like, and I was only about 30 feet away from the stage, and it was actually starting to give me a headache. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go get something to drink. I can't hear this. Maybe if I step back, I'll hear what's going on. Well, I'm online waiting to get a drink, and I'm seeing cups of water that they have on the stand there that they're handing out to people. And remember the Jurassic Park scene when the T-Rex is coming and the water starts to vibrate? Yeah. I'm looking at the water, and that's what I'm saying. This is when surfacing came on. Like it's like maybe 3 or 4 seconds into surfacing. And even though it's like a bass booming, I can still hear the guitar tapping from surfacing. And I'm looking at the cups on the table in front of me, and I'm like, the hell? Everything's starting to vibrate. I look behind me, and it looked like a futuristic version of the battle in Braveheart. Like everyone just lost.
That vibration was happening to my chest. I think at my first concert, my friend brought me. He brought me to see Head PE back in the day, and we were like one of the first people at the venue, so we were right next to like the thing. And all of a sudden they play, and I never really been to a metal concert or even a rock concert at that point. So the vibration was like. My whole body was vibrating. I'm like, What's that? It's surreal though, because that's like I believe is the energy like of music in general. Like when you get to that, the vibrations, it has some power to it.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Um,
I a great one was when I first heard Morbid Angel. This
ooh,
was when this was Pantera's last tour. It was when they were doing the Reinventing the Steel tour, and so of course they headlined, but they had Morbid Angel, Soulfly, and I think it was Nothing Face, who was the other band that was with them. But Morbid Angel was the one that stuck out to me because I hadn't really heard them before. A guy who went both nights, who was a friend of mine, who was telling me about them from the night before, and so now I had this level of, all right, I want to see these guys. And this was when Steve Tucker was in the band, and
yeah.
that was kind of like my preferred lineup. I thought he was the most intense out of them all, as far as the bass player / vocalist in the band. And that was a hell of a show, man. That I remember that being like a core memory right there for me, you know.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking some of the shows because, like I said, I went through kind of a stage where I had friends that would like go to these things. We went to one. I remember it was like Guar, and Guar opened it, and freaking Cradle of Filth closed it.
Oh, really?
And so, like, we went. I was a big Cradle fan. My friend was into Guar. We did, we went to it. We stood up and right in the front for the Guar part of it. I think CKY was supposed to be there. A few other miscellaneous bands. Guar just fucking destroys it. You got
Oh, yeah,
slime,
yeah.
everything. But so then I'm like, okay, Cradle of Filth, brother. Come on, my friend's like, I think we're gonna go and sit in the back now and sit. I don't think we're gonna stand for this next one. I don't think I can take it anymore. I'm just like, that's great. But no, I actually got to see Guar later on, like at a horror convention not too long ago, and got to meet them, like, and sit and talk with them.
Oh,
I
nice.
I've always been, they're iconic in my opinion, just
Well,
as
they're a band that go hand in hand with the whole kind of vibe of horror genre.
well, Cradle of Filth too. They made a
Oh,
horror
yeah.
movie.
No, that is true. That is true. I'm talking like especially with the theatrics though, and like
Oh
the
yeah,
Guar
they know how
definitely
to
kind of
put it up on
they have
stage.
they're kind of king of the mountain when it comes to the performative component of that, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean they had all their character, their clothing, everything. It was probably at production value of cinematics. It wasn't no cheap just Halloween
Yeah.
costumes they were putting on. They were the real deal when they were at the convention walking around like.
And then you can like switch to the
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, Vic, you listen to a lot of metal. What are some of your bands you like?
Something like that. I'm just promoting this episode because I think Bobby's a great guy. But yeah, you're right. And I do sometimes.
Well, who do you like to listen to when you do?
All sorts of different artists. It depends on my mood. It depends on the season. It's just
right.
none of
I hear
vibration
you.
in my mood. Whether my kids drive me nuts or not. It's just.
Well, that's when I just start playing Slipknot and shit when they're pissing me off.
I mean, I'm a big fan of like Bullet for My Valentine.
Mm.
Oh, yeah,
Diving
in down.
They're great.
You're trying to get those goth girls by the heart, aren't you?
No, it's just like
Next, you'll be
I
listening
always
to
liked
him.
them. I was living
Next,
in
you'll be
Maine.
listening to him with tattoos.
I was living in Maine when they came by in Aura, and it was a great show. I thought.
You're talking to two people.
I wish I paid money for that VIP, extra for VIP, but no, I didn't know who they were really. So I did the standard a minute, but they were great.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I do believe metal for some reason it does go hand in hand in horror. Although some rap can, I think, like movies like Tales from the Hood did a really good job.
Oh
The original.
yeah.
Did
That's
a really
great
good
horror
job.
film,
Everyone
too.
really remembers Tales of the Hood. Everyone remembers like Freddy Krueger, and
I know what you're about to say. You're talking about Nightmare on My Street?
Yeah, he's like stuff like that. It's like, but no, it's like rap. It's like okay, rap is cute, but it's not like horror metal.
No, but
Well,
I mean,
a big thing about it is with rap, you got to be a little more strategic with the lyrics because I mean, if there's a different dynamic to the music, and you're going to be hearing the vocals more clearly 90% of the time, and it's also going to be more at the forefront. You're not going to be waiting for a certain riff to kick in. The drums ain't going to be the same. Like there's a totally different dynamic and it's more reliant on what the vocalist is going to be doing, and so that's going to go hand in hand with, all right, now we're paying more attention to the lyrics in real time than we might if it was a metal song.
Well, like I
Especially if it
thought
was
they
like
did a
death metal
really
song.
good job, in my opinion, of scoring like Get Out. I thought they did good with that because it wasn't like over the top rap. There was just a few R&B hits in the beginning that people would be reminiscent of.
Mm-hmm.
But for most of the part, they were using just different sounds.
Well, a big thing is sometimes you get a lot of you'll get a lot of scores that are not as melodic. You'll get ones that are more textured,
Yep.
and you'll have kind of sound clusters. Sometimes there'll be samples. Sometimes there'll just be a sound, and it might be a sound that's altered in a given way, and all of a sudden you've got levels of pitch there, but it's not the same thing as somebody composing a melody. And great example of that, and I'm taking it back. I mean, they do it a lot now, but it's not like it's something that's brand new. One of the best examples goes back to 1974, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That score didn't really have any melody to it. It was all
Everything is
atmospheric and
samples,
textured,
layered samples. Boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom.
But it was brilliant. It worked perfectly for that film with the atmosphere that was needed for that film. Like if you took the Halloween theme and put it in Texas Chainsaw, it wouldn't fit. It's a great theme.
No, they
get people who-
made it. If you could get a sound for 1970s or 80s Texas, they were able to pull it off with sound bites. Like it's kind of weird to think that way, but they did. And like you said, it's just small riffs. It's just maybe
Yeah.
one string here,
the
one
most
string there.
and it was sounds that you'd hear as if it was like echoed things being dropped in someone's basement or something like that, and it worked perfectly. It worked absolutely perfect. The thing that you can remember the most out of everything, in that it's not necessarily part of the music, but it works as if it is, and that's the sound of that old camera, the
Yep.
old flash. You know, you
Yep.
hear that,
They were on sale.
and if you're familiar with those movies, you hear that immediately. You're like, your mind goes back, oh, that's Texas Chainsaw.
And they actually put that flash in there because they wanted it to kind of be reminiscent of the hitchhiker who was snapping photos of people.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, which worked. And it's one of those things that I remember when I first saw it. I was a kid, so I didn't necessarily make that connection until a later view.
Yeah, no, I had to actually like listen to the panel with the cinematographer and learn all these secrets. But
Yeah, even my daughter, like I got two kids. My younger daughter is a huge Leatherface fan. Out of all the like horror slasher characters, he's her favorite, and that was not prompted. That was just one of those. Oh, okay, you like Leatherface, awesome. And so constantly, that's the thing. I've played that sample, and immediately she's got it. Like, oh yeah, it's Texas Chainsaw, got it. It's so recognizable and it's so simple.
They're always after you, Victor.
That's what I have to say. I'm scary.
I don't even know who Crystalline is, but you've already found fans, Vic.
I don't fucking know who this.
You bring in the numbers and they love you.
Yeah, it's okay.
No, but I mean, honestly, sometimes I love, because I do a lot of short films that just make segments, and sometimes I love to just take it and I'll completely blank the slate of the whole whatever I filmed. And I'll go in there and just do all my own, because I own I bought over the years tons and tons of just, sound packs and sound bites and different ambient stuff. And I'll go in there and just resound the whole thing, and then I'll add in all the different layers of weird sounds that I have, or make my own sounds now.
Mhm.
I've kind of gone into, I'll do something in the deb, like, oh, that sounds kind of fucked up. Let me repeat that and do it again. Steal the sound bite. And just kind of do weird experimental shit. And like you said, sometimes it works really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, let's face it. If you're gonna make an amateur movie or an indie film, most likely you're not gonna blow your budget on securing rights to a famous song.
Oh yeah, that will be the whole budget if that's the case.
That will be it. You'll just have the song and maybe the intro, and that will be it.
You'll have so and so presents, and then it'll just be a black screen with 10 seconds of the song, and then written and directed by, and that'll be the end of the movie.
But Sashi was the one that caused the trouble for me flipping you off. Not me.
I didn't cause you any
I think that's a
trouble.
good way. Sashi made it sound like a bad way.
I did not make it sound in a bad way. I said you're scary and someone's been summoned. That's good things. No.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I ended up doing Texas Chainsaw short film a little while
Yep.
ago, and it's definitely more melodic than the '74 film because I didn't want to just replicate what they did. However, at the same time, there are moments in that where it's definitely more. You'll get just sound clusters here and there. Because I didn't want to just rely on one technique for that. I wanted to have the throwback to that kind of sound, but kind of do my own thing with it. So I kind of
But
meshed.
here's kind of like a techie business question though. When do you know when to like add a sound or add a backtrack to it, or keep it just real and keep it just whatever's happening in silence? Because there is a time I think for both. How do you figure
Absolutely.
out when's the right and wrong to do that?
There's not a straight answer for that. A lot of it is what you're feeling, and doesn't mean what you're feeling is always going to be right. You know, like the sound effect that's happening right behind me at the moment with one of my cats puking on the floor. Like I wouldn't have expected that to happen, but here we are. But as far as when to put stuff in there and then when to leave it the hell alone, I try to take, at least most of the time, the approach of less is more. That's not something that I do across the board, because if you do it all the time, you might get too used to it. The brain of the person viewing the film might get too used to it, depending on what it is. But I find that it's kind of, for me, my musical background combined with the fact that I've just been watching lots and lots of movies since I was like 2 years old, and a whole ton of them have been horror movies. It's a matter of, like, you have that built in. It's like an informal education if you're really paying attention to it. Of, okay, this works here. This doesn't work here. Here's why.
And you
And
kind of look at the scene and what the scene's emotions are, and
yeah,
should this be a time that should be extra tense with no sound so everybody's focused on that camera? Or can we be a little lax and maybe let our mind focus
yeah.
somewhere else?
Well, a good example, there was a short film that I did, it was last year. It was called My Special Boy, not to be confused with a Friday the 13th project or anything. It just happened to have that title. And this particular film, the opening scene required the music that I put in there. It wasn't very overt, but it would kind of like pop in here and there in moments until the very end of the scene, where it all of a sudden kind of crescendoed up. And up until like the moment right before the climactic moment in the film, there's this whole middle ground where I let it alone. I did not put any music in there. And as I was watching the film, because I watched it a few times before I put anything down so I could formulate ideas, the whole time I was watching this middle section of the film going, yeah, I could put some stuff in here that'll match what's going on, but I think it's more effective quiet at the moment. I think it needs to breathe. Because when the music comes back in for a more intense moment, for a particular reveal or something like that, you want that nothing so that you can kind of escalate higher. Like, because if you're here, here's the highest you can go, and you already are here. Well, now there's only a little bit of space. There's only so much you can go that you can ramp it up before you hit a ceiling. So you need to kind of back down a little bit first. And that was exactly what I did. And I remember when I was on for a Zoom meeting with the director and the cinematographer, and we were going through it bit by bit, and I said, like, this whole section I honestly think shouldn't have anything, and they were like, that's actually exactly what we were thinking as well. And so we were very much on the same page, and it made everything that followed that much more impactful when the music actually kicked in. I can give you a non-horror example. The movie Castaway. You seen the movie
Yep.
Castaway?
Yeah.
That movie has very little music in it at all. Like, as far as the score goes.
No, I
There
think
is
they did
no
that to make
score.
you feel lonely.
Yep. And or like the plane crash and all that stuff. You're hearing the sound of the plane crashing and all that, which is terrifying by itself. The lack of any score makes it 1,000 times more terrifying, because it feels like a real scenario that could actually happen. But even after that, like you just said, it's to make you have that isolated feeling. But two is this: when he finally gets off the island after he rigged up that sail and whatnot, and he's finally past the waves and he's out on the open water, and he looks back at the island, and the island is starting to fade away in the fog and everything. That's when the music first kicks in, first time in the entire movie. And the only other time, and the very next time it kicks in, is when he loses Wilson, about
Okay.
5 or 10 minutes
So, like,
later.
again, playing off the emotions, and
Yeah.
sometimes if you play a sad song at a party, it'll make the scene sadder.
Yeah, it's that much more impactful because you've heard nothing up to that point. That doesn't
And
mean
now
that's
it's
the
almost like
formula
I'm
for
feeling
everything.
something. Oh no.
Yeah, like, and it doesn't mean that's going to be like the best way to do it for everything, but for that particular film and a lot of other films, that is extremely effective. Where you wait, you don't want to blow your load too soon. You want to make sure that you've got it in the right
No, and
spot.
it draws almost it draws it draws tension in a different way, not using the film but using the sound. That's why I said, like, the way a sound is pitched in any kind of movie just can dictate how that movie goes. If it's a fun movie, a scary movie.
Yeah,
I've seen people take trailers of, happy movies and put a scary soundtrack to it, and the movie all of a sudden looks like it's a horror trailer. It's
yeah.
like,
Oh, I love those on YouTube. The recut trailers. I think those
yeah,
are hilarious, man.
I've seen one with Mary Poppins, and they made that
The
look
scary
pretty
Mary one. Yeah, I know what
Right?
you're talking about. Yeah, even my daughter's saying in the background, "Oh yeah, the scary Mary one." The one that was cracking me up was the where they turned The Shining into like a family film.
Yes.
That was great, and they had Mulberry Hill playing, which was like that was hilarious. And they just
You
took
got
the
him
word
looking
"the"
like a
out.
good
Just Shining
father
is the
in
name of
this.
it. That was I
Welcome,
love that.
Barbara. Welcome to
Hello.
the party. We're talking horror music tonight. Well, music in general, really, because
Yes.
I mean, I do feel music is not just part of horror movies. It's all all movies, whether it's Jaws, whether it's Star Wars, movies we grew
Yeah.
up with. It's whether it's even TV like Twilight Zone. We remember these songs, and they get installed in our head, and we know that's why we got show tunes.
Yeah.
There's show tunes. But some movies, like you said, you might repeat that theme. As like in Halloween, you have a repeated theme. But in other movies, you might never play the same song twice or the same theme twice.
Yeah.
Or just to the credits, maybe. Not every I don't believe every movie has a main theme or needs a main theme.
Yeah, it really depends. Halloween is one of those ones where that and also the Friday the 13th ones, there are certain things where you'll hear a certain level of repetition. We were talking about Suspiria earlier. That's a perfect example of repetition.
Yes.
And it's effective for those films. It's not going to always work for everything, but it's effective for those films. And I try to keep that in mind when I'm working on a project where if I've got something different for a given number of scenes, I'm still thinking in my head. I'm thinking ahead, like, okay, at what moments should I bring back something I've used already, whether it's the exact same thing or just a variation on it, where it's just altered slightly, so that it's different enough to fit the scene. If I got to change some stuff to match the timing or whatever, but obviously a callback to something that happened 20 minutes ago or whatever length of time it might be.
Well, even like I've seen it be done where you maybe repeat the song, even just in the credits. It's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I always like to kind of fuck around a little bit. And I'll be honest, like I've made movies where it kind of like, have this weird atmospheric film or whatever. But then like the credits, I'll do something just happy and upbeat or something totally different. It's like, oh, okay. Well, it's
It took the Evil Dead approach.
Yeah, in that sense. But I also find there's like, I don't know, a hidden scariness in like older instrumental music. If you talk like 1920s, 1930 records where people really aren't singing, but you got these kind of old beats. I feel like you can use them in a way for horror and have them still work. Almost like in Jeepers Creepers. The song necessarily isn't scary. It's very
scary
catchy,
in that
though.
context. Yeah, it's scary within the context.
Within the context of that, it becomes almost they built a movie around a song.
They throw through the tulips,
Well, exactly.
Same
That's
idea.
another perfect example. I mean, a lot of these songs now become YouTube trends because people are realizing that they can be creepy when they're slowed down or sped up.
Yeah. Whoever just said hello, I didn't see the name because this print on my phone is real small. I just saw it said hi, Bobby. So just saying hello to you. Whoever just said
that
hi.
was Barbara. Yes,
Oh, hello.
Barbara's one of our good viewers, always tuning in to Horror Nights.
Well, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. But yeah, I love when that stuff happens. When you take something that's not necessarily going to be in and of itself scary, but now because of the context, whether you've done something to alter the song, or you haven't altered anything. You just left it the way it was, and it's the context of the film that's kind of making it unsettling, you know?
But yeah, I mean, like, look at all these. Like, I mean, I watch a lot of the YouTube stuff and Facebook Reels and stuff, and you'll see these like almost analog horrors or such, where they're
Oh, I know
playing
what you're talking about.
reminiscence and
Yeah, I've seen
such. But
the. Yeah.
the soundtracks are very dreamcore and very, mellow and gentle and oh, I'm, back in the womb almost. And then it's just these weird imageries that are playing with the horror, and it becomes scary. It's like the backroom effects. Those songs
Yeah.
that they play in that game aren't necessarily scary, but within the context of you being lost, it's almost like, oh my God, this makes it twice as worse. I'd
Yep.
rather it just be silent.
Well, a great, perfect example. A large amount, not all, but a large amount of the music from the Silent Hill video games, if you listen to them by themselves, a lot of those tracks aren't necessarily scary. They're more ambient. But you
Yep.
put them in the context of that game when they're happening in the game, and they're either very unsettling and creepy, or they're very reflective, or a little of both, and obviously deliberately so. Akira Yamaoka is a brilliant composer.
Now let me ask you, do you do all the sound post, or are you on also the sets holding the sound from mics, or you don't deal with the
Ah,
mic sound?
it depends on the film and what my schedule is like. I'll always be doing the post stuff, obviously, because the film needs to be done, or at least the scenes I'm working on need to be done before I get them. Otherwise, you might have something that's not picture locked, and under those circumstances, I might need to rescore it if they decide to change the timing in any of it.
Yeah,
Um,
because everything's time.
yeah. However, in addition to whatever I'm doing in post, there have been circumstances where, because of when they're filming and where they're filming, if I can, I'll go on set. If I know I'm able to make it, I like doing that, because while I can do the composing from a distance, I can do it from anywhere. I like to meet the people who are doing this stuff in person. I like to meet the cast and crew. I like, one, because I just think it's important for people to know each other in person, and two, if I'm on set, I mean, not only can I be an extra hand and help out with certain stuff, but at the same time, I'm seeing how the lighting is being set up, how the shots are being set up, where what the set is. I'm seeing how they're doing the takes, and I'm getting a little more insight, and it can help give me ideas, which has happened. Is it necessary? Like, is it essential? No, but does it help? Absolutely. And so there have been sets where I've done that before, and I've gone on, and it's definitely helped me start to conjure up ideas that I either would start developing right then and there on the spot, or I might, you know, record a quick sloppy 5 seconds of something on my phone and then go back to it later. So that's definitely happened. Now, there are other things that I've been involved in where I'll have a more active role on set in addition to the composing. Good example, the first feature that I scored, which was the first project I was ever on, Hunt Chase Kill, which is a film that's going to be released on streaming. I think that will include Prime, but don't quote me on that. Probably in the next 2 months. I believe they want to do it before the summer break. And with that, I say summer break because I'm a teacher as well.
Yeah.
But before the summer, they're planning on putting it on streaming. And that particular film, I was able to go on set for a couple of days, and so I met everyone. And then on top of that, I was there during a day where they were going to have to do a bunch of kills one after another, and they were going to need a bunch of extras to make that happen. Like, they needed a bunch of people to die. And
Yeah.
so I ended up being one of the guys who got killed in the movie as well. And so
That's
it was
fun.
one of those. Yeah, it was a fun
It's always
time.
fun to die in a film. I got to do it recently. I got to get poisoned on a bench, and I have to say, it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, and then with the same people, you fast forward to this year, just some months ago, back during the end of the summer or beginning of the fall, that same crowd was filming another movie. And this one's a long, short film is the best way to put it. I can see it being turned into a feature down the road, but I haven't worked on the music yet because they're still editing it. It's a movie called The Legend of the Bushkill Witch. They filmed it in Easton, Pennsylvania at Bushkill Park. Not to be confused with Bushkill, Pennsylvania, which is not the same thing for anyone who's familiar with that. But I went there, and I wasn't sure what role I was going to play. Initially, the guy wanted me to, the director, Paul Sutt's his name. We've gotten along very well now over the last year or two. And he wanted me to be one of the kind of right hand man of the witch in this movie, and they're running a haunt, and the people going through the haunt are unaware that it's a real witch running it, and every year on Halloween a certain number of people need to be sacrificed, and so this is like their front to make a few people disappear in the process. Not every person, because obviously the authorities would be notified, but at least to disappear some people from the crowd. And I ended up having to do a completely different role because someone was absent that day. They got sick, and they were, they had a speaking role, and so I ended up at the last second kind of going in and doing that. And then they kind of found a workaround. I showed up a couple of weeks later when they were filming again, and I was just a killer wearing a mask, because most of the people following the witch, you didn't see their face. So that was kind of you can do two roles. And I ended up being one of the masked killers who I probably got the most kills out of the whole movie, which was a lot of fun. And I was helping come up with stuff. I was like, well, wait a minute, there's a gate right there with these spikes coming up. What if we like slam the person's neck down on that?
Well, see, so you watch all these horrors, and like you said, you get this untaught knowledge and wisdom that you can pull out because we have an encyclopedia of cinema kills in our head.
Yeah. The fun thing there is because of my job as a music teacher, I end up bringing some of this information back into my classroom. Now, there's only so much that I can, show, so to say, without, getting fired or something like that. But I can at least be like, hey, here are some behind the scenes, photos, not ones with someone's head being split open or anything like that.
Yeah, but at least you can teach the kids the Halloween riff on keyboard.
Well, we've been doing that. And, I showed them samples of stuff that I did. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be put to this scene and stuff like that. We actually did a fair amount of scary stuff for a concert. We actually did a variation on the Halloween theme, and
nice.
We played that. We played some music from Aliens as well, and we also played the Predator theme. And so now we're trying to work on stuff for a spring concert next, and I think we're going to be working on the Godzilla theme as one of our pieces as well.
Why couldn't we have cool teachers like this when we went to school?
We always had the old woman
Yeah, I had this old decrepit looking. She looked like the Crypt Keeper. She'd be like, "We're gonna sing today." She just ripped 3 cigarettes in the basement. She comes up, straggly voice, and I'm just like, yeah, okay. When's this class over? No, I would have loved to have been in a class that actually taught something that would be real world or interesting.
Well, that's like, I try to keep it exciting. I'm like, all right, if it's something that's going to bore me and I'm an adult, chances are the kids ain't going to be that interested in it. And so while there's certain stuff to where it's like, okay, we got to get the basics done, and this might not be as exciting. Once we can get certain stuff out of the way, I'd like it to be more entertaining and fun. And so, like, we're learning certain stuff on piano, like we're learning not only the Halloween theme, but like one of the themes from Assassin's Creed 2.
Oh yeah, yep, that's a great. That's one of my favorite game scores. I think I own the CD somewhere because it has all this great music in it.
Yeah, well, that's Izio's Family is the one that we're learning on piano, because it's a real simple song.
Really
it's
good.
Great tune. It's a great song, man.
They did a lot of research in the game to get those songs and sounds to almost Renaissance authentic.
Yeah. There's certain, you can hear that there are certain instruments that they're either sampling or actually playing.
Yeah, and it was a different. I mean, those games are very. If you've ever played, they're very atmospheric. It puts you in those times, especially those earlier ones for me. Anyways, they put me in those time periods. Like I felt like I was Enzio running around. But no, I mean, like I said, I'm big into games, movies in general, but horror specifically. But there's, like I said, you watch movies as a kid, you hear thousands of theme songs, and you might never watch the movie again, but the themes.
You got to remember the theme. I was
late night TV, all these shows that would come on. Green Acres and all this stuff. All the themes, even if you didn't watch it.
Yeah, well, and then if you were part of the HBO and Cinemax, late at night, there'd be the same horror movies and action movies playing over and over
Oh
again.
yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember those days.
That was like prime time, man. Like
They play like Die Hard, and then they play it again right after. And
yeah,
like, okay,
and then they'd
cool.
play a more obscure stuff too. Like there'd be like the run of ninja movies that would play, and there'd be the run of horror films that you'd never seen before, unless you were next to a mom and pop video store or something
Yeah.
like that. Those were good times. That's what I miss about, granted, we didn't have streaming and stuff immediately available, but it led to the discovery. It led to us watching stuff that we otherwise wouldn't have known about because it was what was on, and we might have walked into something.
Yeah,
that
it
was already on
wasn't.
for
We
10
didn't get
minutes.
because I mean, if we can choose what we want, most of the time we choose what we think we're gonna like or something we've already seen. But back
Yeah.
then, you just this is on. My movie might come on after this. Let me just watch what's on now. And
Yeah.
oh shit, I love that film.
There were quite a few that came my way and became some of my favorite movies. A good one is Donnie Darko. Donnie
Oh, yeah?
Darko. I walked into that movie. It was already on a certain channel. I kind of recognized one or two actors in it. I walked into that movie and it had already been on for probably at least a good 40 or 45 minutes. And I know some people get confused as shit by that movie. And so now here's me without even like the first 40 or 45 minutes for context. And so I'm trying to piece together what's happening. I'm like, all right, I kind of get some of the stuff happening here. I might be missing some stuff, but this movie is awesome. And between the score and also the soundtrack, and then just the general story of that movie and the atmosphere of it and everything, I remember it stuck in my head. I had no idea what the name of the movie
No,
was.
it's one of those
years
movies
later.
that and I've had to watch it several times because just to get what was going on because it is kind of like it's a movie you have to pay attention.
Yeah. Have you seen the
But
director's cut, man?
I don't think I have yet, actually.
That ended up being the version of it that I bought. And I like both versions of the movie. And there were maybe one or two sets of dialogue in the theatrical cut that aren't in the director's cut. And I do wish were there. But outside of the one or two little just lines of dialogue that for whatever reason were omitted, other than that, I prefer the director's cut. I think that the structure of the movie is a little better. It definitely has extra stuff in there, but the order of songs, the soundtrack is actually different. Like in the theatrical cut, once he wakes up in the beginning of the movie and the title comes on, he's riding on his bike, Killing Moon comes on by Echo and the Bunnymen. In this, it's Love Will Tear Us Apart instead.
So it's kind of like Halloween 5 where they made a whole producer's cut and they changed the soundtrack, got rid of the metal, the heavy metal and rock.
Exactly. And like in this one, it's not until the party right before the shit hits the fan when the Killing Moon comes on. So it's more appropriate. It's like, oh, that's more it's better because it's leading right into the moment where someone's actually going to get killed, And so there are little things like that I prefer about that version.
It's funny. Sometimes, like I said, just the way songs and just the way scenes can go, it could change the whole outcome or way a movie is viewed or looked at. What really I think got me into, honestly, sound in general of movies, it's weird to say, but it was the movie Requiem for a Dream. I thought it had a brilliant soundtrack by Clint. He did an amazing job with that. It was the soundtrack alone was moving, and then with the visuals and
that movie is fantastic. It's a hard watch, but it is an amazing movie.
It is. It's one of my favorite. I mean, I like Pie too. Coming off of
that's a good one. I do like Pie.
And I could see what he was trying to do with Mother, but I think he tried too hard. But Requiem, I read the book, and I think he just did a really good job with the camera. I mean, those shots, the pupils dilate, boom, boom, boom. These just quick cuts of just life.
Yeah, the cinematography is phenomenal in that movie.
But the music is great. And when I saw that, that was one of those movies like, wow, is that a soundtrack? Because I was older at this point. I was in my 20s, and I had the luxury of working at video stores, so I could just, get things a little bit earlier than the others.
Yep.
And so, I brought it home. I watched it. I came back like, I love this film. When is it coming for sale?
Yeah, I hear you. A great one. Have you seen any of the more recent? And I'm saying this for comparison. Have you seen any of the more recent 28 movies, like 28 years later, or any of those?
I haven't. I want to see that Bone one. The
Bone Temple.
The what's it called? The trailer really looks really good for me.
I've seen them. I like all of those movies. 28 Days Later is one of my all-time favorite horror movies. Between the guerrilla style in which that movie was shot, but I love everything about it. I love the character development in that, and I love the score by John Murphy. It is
Yep.
like it's so simple, but it is so fantastic. That's one of the things that's not in the 28 Years Later movies. They have maybe one or two moments of it deliberately set in certain spots. Actually, some stuff by John Murphy, and then the song when he's wandering through London is
Yep.
is in a piece as well. But and that's not John Murphy, that was a band. But those are in there, and it's otherwise totally different composers, and it's not just composers, but it's a lot of pre-existing songs that are edited together in certain ways. You'll know what I mean when you see it. But it's that and like sound snippets and all this other stuff, and it's a totally different than what John Murphy did in 28 Days Later. But because of a lot of the themes that are being explored in the Years movies, it still works. It's one of these things where it's like, wow, that sounds totally different. And I still like John Murphy's music better if I was going to just do a straight comparison. But the music they've got in those two later films works really well within the context of what's going on. And like I said, a lot of the themes that are kind of underlying and being explored throughout both of those movies. I definitely recommend them. A lot
Well,
of
it almost
people
made you wonder, like, if they were to make, if they were to make a Jaws movie today, would they keep the same theme, or would they just have a snippet of it here and there just to throw a reminiscence and be a totally different sound?
I'm willing to bet that they'd probably do the latter, and it would probably sound like shit. And the shark would probably also look like shit, and the entire movie would probably be shit.
Well, yeah, anything after one wasn't too good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the second one wasn't bad. The second one was a decent sequel. It's not nearly as good as the first one, but it's a decent sequel, and it's
It was
got
a
some
decent
rather
see where it
effective
built
moments.
story and character. You got to see
Yeah.
what happened to the kids and family and
Oh,
so forth.
and it does have some very effective moments, like when when Sean gets knocked off the upside down boat, and the one girl jumps in and saves him, but in the process she gets killed.
Yeah.
Like there are moments that are very effective, and
No,
that
but then
and when the guy Eddie gets killed as well.
But then they played off the name, and they said, you know what, the name is bigger than the movie. Let's put out a third one. You know what? Let's
Yeah.
bring that back. And they did the fourth one.
And
The fourth
that's
one was like,
oh my god. Actually,
nobody
some of
wanted to
my
see it.
as much as I liked those movies when I was kids, I'm not gonna keep my nostalgia goggles on. Those movies did not age well at all, and they didn't even look good at the time.
I think the first one aged well just
Oh, yeah.
because it's something different, and the characters are really good acting, and the acting
Yep.
is really what drives it.
It's a
But
timeless
after
movie.
that, the other movies, the sequels, yeah, as a kid, I probably watched them dozens of times. I probably
Yeah.
loved it because I couldn't watch other horror movies. I'd say, oh, let's watch Jaws.
Yeah, it's
That's
like,
not
oh,
horror,
shark,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
And so I could get away with that. And so I would watch these movies and love it. But you're right, they don't age as good as as movies would be. I mean,
Yeah.
I think sharks got overplayed anyways. There's too many shark
Oh yeah,
movies.
it's over. There are some that are very effective and good, but it's definitely oversaturated. I would never want to see a remake of that. I would legitimately be pissed if they did that. And there's no way they'd be even coming close to how awesome that movie is. That movie is like timeless. That's you don't
Yeah,
touch.
you can't really. It's one of those ones that I don't think could, between the
Yeah,
score, what it has, the characters, the
yeah.
casting,
There are
the
certain films
effects.
where there is no way in hell any remake is ever going to even come
Well,
close.
nobody's
That's
gonna want to
one.
see it. Nobody's gonna want to see a CGI shark. That's gonna be
Yeah.
the problem.
Well, we've seen that in a bunch of other movies, and it's not even good enough for those movies, let alone
No,
Jaws.
and we've seen tornado sharks now.
Yeah.
I
I mean, at least that was that at least knew it was stupid and was playing off of that. That I
well,
can give a pass.
there
'Cause
is
it's
some
not
good
supposed
ones.
to
I
be.
like Deep Blue Sea. I thought that was done
Deep Blue
okay.
Sea, yeah, that was actually I enjoy that movie. It's got dated CGI, but it's still a very enjoyable movie. I actually like the story in that. It did something different. It wasn't attacking a beach community or something like that.
And
And I
actually,
did
believe it or not, there's a few free indie shark movies on
yeah.
YouTube that aren't bad stories.
One that I thought was very effective. It's on Hulu. Was that movie No Way Up? Did you see that one?
I have not.
Came out like a year or two ago, I believe. And these people are on an airplane, and something goes wrong on the airplane. The airplane crashes into the water, and before any even mention of sharks, you see the people are on the plane, and you see the water level and the bubbles and everything, and they're going on. They're like already like 50 feet down, and that's like terrifying. That's like nightmare fuel by itself. And
Yeah.
then they land on a fucking cliff that it's unstable, and they might end up sliding off the cliff, and it's like just a drop after that. They're like, there's no way they're going to be able to swim to the top from that point. And then to make matters worse, because there's a giant hole in the plane, there's an air pocket that's keeping them alive temporarily. Now there's a giant hole in the plane, and fucking sharks start coming in. It's actually like one of the most, like, scenario wise, that's kind of like one of the scariest and worst possible situations.
You take like
you've
three
just won the
phobias,
prize,
you took like three phobias, threw them together, and
Yeah.
just like, you know what? Let's scare somebody.
Yeah, like heights, crashing, drowning,
Claustrophobia,
sharks.
you name it, they got it. Jesus.
Yeah. And I mean, the shark is computerized. I'm not, so it's obviously going to have a limited look to it, but they also limit how much they show it.
But let's be honest, I mean, not for nothing, in this day and age, if anybody was to use a real shark, we'd be having animal people protesting the film.
Yeah, well, and plus you're not training a shark. It's just not going to happen.
No, and if you make a mechanical shark, it better be damn good. Otherwise, Jaws still wins, and a 50-year-old movie did better than you.
Yeah, well, or even Deep Blue Sea, when it used the animatronics, those things looked damn good.
If I was to do a shark film, you would never see the shark except the fin. That's it.
Well, that was
the fin and the bodies.
Minus the final act. I mean, that's the strategy behind Jaws, and it worked very effectively.
I think so. I think, I mean, again, the less is more. You don't,
Yep.
The fear of not knowing is almost a fear of knowing. If you know what something looks like, it almost becomes less scary.
Yeah, and actually, there's a moment in that musically shows less is more. I mean, not only the main theme, because it's just two notes. There are other parts, but the main thing they keep going back to is that motif of just the two notes. Now, the shark cage scene, if you recall, in that scene, that music kicks in, shark's getting close to Hooper, but then the music starts to fade away and the shark starts to swim away. He gets out of focus. I've used this in music lessons with kids, and we actually compared two different scenes, and they're both effective for different reasons. One was when Dallas dies in Alien, and the other one is the shark cage scene in Jaws. And what I did was I explained to the kids there, all right, pretend you're at the beach and there's a giant wave that's coming, and it's getting larger and larger. And I'm not talking a tsunami. I'm just talking a regular wave.
Regular wave.
Over. The wave is getting pretty big. Now it's next to you, and it's at its highest point. It's right near you, and bam, it comes slamming down on you. Okay. Now that's scenario one. Picture scenario two. Same exact thing is going to happen, and the wave is gigantic. It's building up, but now you're noticing as it's getting closer to you, you thought it was going to hit you, but it starts to die down. And by the time it gets to you, it's just this little whoop in the water, and you're kind of looking at where it went, not realizing that an even bigger wave is already built behind you, and it's right about to crash down in you, and it's only the moment you turn around that bam, it knocks you on your ass.
Yeah, both effective. And I mean, I think in the Jaws sense, I think they almost made that sound the sound of the shark, because like you said, you hear it dissipate, and when the shark leaves, that sound leaves when he comes.
And what
closer,
happens?
That sound comes.
It's
closer.
dead silent. All you hear is like kind of the whoosh of the ocean water, and it's just like a drone of sound. And other than that, it's dead silent. And in that dead silence, which lasts at least 30, 40 seconds, is when the shark hits the cage behind him, and that's when the music kicks back in. So all you're hearing is simultaneously the strings
he
kick
doesn't
in,
see it. He don't know
bang.
where the shark is. The viewer don't know where the shark is. So again, we use the silent trick, and then bam, it's right in your face again. But now it's really close.
Yeah, it's the same strategy as Friday Part 2, when Ginny's under the bed and thinks he left, but now he realizes she's under the bed and he was standing on the stool. So it's dead silent for a little bit, and as soon as she looks up, she sees he's standing there on the stool ready to stab her.
Yeah, no, and I think again, that's where sound is just knowing. Again, it's not an easy thing, but you learn it. It's just what scenes are going to work with what build up, and when to change the build up, because not every build up needs a stab or needs a finish. You
Yeah.
might build up to a false finish and
Hmm.
someone's safe.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, there's a bigger wave coming behind them to take them out maybe a second later, or maybe, a minute later, who knows?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you play with that because, again, you're playing with emotions because the people get used to the sounds. So if they know a kill comes with every sound, then they're going to know by the sound that a kill's coming. So you want to throw them off the game and make them, think about what's happening. You don't want them to know it's predictable.
Yeah. And then in those moments, it's like, okay, keep it low. Like either it drops out or it's just backed off significantly until the moment that death blow is delivered. Where it's like on impact. Sometimes you can do it to where it's a build up, right? Like maybe half a second, and it's there. Other times, don't do shit until the impact.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. But I mean, like I said, I mean music in general. But even like cinema music, I find myself a lot of the time when writing or doing editing or especially color grading and stuff, I'll just throw on, my Apple and I'll just find different horror scores and play through them and just listen to them in the background. And I find it almost motivating in some ways because a lot of these sounds were made to install some sort of feeling of whether it's dread, scariness,
Yeah.
tension, happiness, hope.
Yeah.
Even the Star Wars songs, there's songs in there that make you feel hopeful when you're listening to them, and there's other ones that are like, oh no, there's no more hope. We've lost the
Yeah.
battle.
No,
And that's just
absolutely.
from the songs. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with what's on screen.
Yeah. While I haven't, I'm trying not to take this for granted because of the digital age that we're in, I still have a fair number of hard copies of a lot of old school film scores, especially horror ones. I got other ones too, but the horror ones just kind of are a little dominant. And that's the kind of stuff I can just put on and listen to. I got a lot of this stuff by Goblin. I got a fair amount of stuff by Carpenter. And then there's other stuff as
Well,
well.
records are coming back now. People, I mean,
Yeah.
I actually just bought a Return of the Living Dead record because it was in a cool case. But I feel like physical media is coming back in ways. I think a lot of
Records.
people.
We talking about vinyl records.
Yeah, I got vinyl. I just bought a
They've been
vinyl
saying
record the
that
other
for
day.
years, maybe like 10 years now. They're making a comeback. It's not making a comeback.
It is though within
It's
the horror
not.
scene.
I talked to so many people for 10 years now. That's
Yeah,
like,
but
I'm
what
gonna
I'm
buy these
saying is
records and
within
nothing happened.
because
Well, I
it's
think
only
the
for
thing,
people that want it though. It's the same thing with
Eyewitness right
DVDs and
here.
Blu-rays.
Eyewitness account right here. It's not happening.
I
It
think the
doesn't
thing
have to
there is
happen for everybody.
it's not going to be what it was, but it's going to have a niched market that might keep it from going away. That's
Well,
probably
like I
the
said,
better
all
way to
these
think
new
of it.
movies that are coming out or
It's
older movies are being
antiques.
redone.
Oh, it's antiques. It's like
They-
my grandmother's garage for antiques. That's all it is these days. I wish it was like the old days. It's not anymore.
Big thing is for me,
like I said, I bought Return of the Living Dead. I got another one I like actually is Midsummer, and I actually got its soundtrack too
I
on
still need to
vinyl.
see that. I have yet to see that movie yet,
The
but I
I
have it on kind
really
of a
I
mental
like
list.
folk horror, so
Yeah.
music, movies like the original Wicker Man, I think
Mm.
had a really. I actually own that soundtrack as well on
Crazy
CD.
thing about that movie is pretty much a musical. It's
It
like a
is.
musical horror. Like
It
it's
is the
it
original
has
one. I
yeah.
hated the Nicolas Cage
Oh
version,
my
but the
god, that
original
fucking
one,
movie.
yeah, the original one. Yes, you have all sorts of different songs. The bar scene is a
It is
musical
such a
scene.
unique movie. Like it is one of those. There's not another movie really like it. But it is like it's a musical, and it's at the same time it's a horror movie and it's a detective mystery, and it's one of those movies that it does not overplay its hand at all. It is so much is understated throughout that movie until the final reveal at the end, which
Yeah,
works
because
great for
I've
it.
watched different versions of it and different cuts of it because I own
Yeah,
some version that has like 5 different versions, and one of them
yeah.
it shows the detective having a more role in his church. So it shows it more of a Christian base, which is
Yeah.
why he acted the way he did. It shows
Hmm.
his like religious side a little bit more heavily.
Yeah.
because he was a very religious man, so that he always believed in his God, Jesus, and that's what he was begging in the end. And these people just had their own beliefs, and he
Yeah.
was on an island without any control.
And what they did, of course, that worked against him in the sense that they knew that about him, and that was why they thought he'd make a better sacrifice.
And I think the whole bait switch. We were all worrying about a little girl, and at the end, it's just like boom, boom.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting, especially for a movie made back then.
Yeah. It's before everybody. It's before everything had. It's before audiences were kind of peppered up to sometimes expect a twist ending.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I think they were looking for a happy ending in that movie. They would have found a little girl, escaped, da 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 da. It's like no,
Yeah.
but it ends with the dude burning in a wicker man. It's like,
That's an
and
intense
just
movie.
that scene too. It had its own music to that, and like I said, sometimes they'll put very weird soundtracks to kill scenes just to either soften the kill or to make it more intense and weird.
Yeah, well, in that scene, it's all of the people singing like joyously as he's burning to death. It's very the
In that
juxtaposition
one,
is
it's
very
eerie.
unsettling.
It makes
Yeah,
it airier.
yeah, and it's one of those like you kind of can't believe this is happening type of situations. Like, wow, is this how this movie's actually going to go? And yep, that's exactly how the movie's going to go. Like, no,
Yeah.
no one's rescuing him. Like,
No, but
this
that's
is what
kind
it
of like
is.
that. The Midsummer vibe has the same thing. It's a really good modern take, I would say,
Mm.
of that. It's different, obviously, different kind of culture, different ambience, different sound,
Yeah,
but it has a very authentic folk sound for the Midsummer festivals.
yeah.
And it's shot very vividly, and I like the way it's shot visually. It's almost a fever dream, the whole movie.
I love when movies will do that. That was that Bushkill Witch film that I'm on. I haven't seen the footage yet, but the director Paul, he was telling me like this movie kind of feels like a fever dream because the way it was shot, and there were so many times that he had to plan B and plan C stuff that were not expected because of people who at the last minute couldn't be there, and because of like a certain circumstance that was supposed to be one way and then kind of got flipped on its head, and now he had to adjust how he was filming stuff. However it played out, the way things were shot, he was telling me like, yeah, between the order of it and how they're shot, the movie kind of looks like a fever dream, and it looks like very just not. It looks very surreal in some ways, and I was kind of like, does it feel kind of like one of those weird Italian horror films? Like, yeah, to a degree, and which is cool because I already thought that with the witch factor and with there being killers working for the witch, that it was going to have kind of like a semi giallo feel to it.
I'm a
And
big
so,
Giallo fan. You can even
yeah,
see by my background. I love that kind of stuff because it's horror, but it's almost some of it's art house horror, some of it's more artsy,
yeah,
even. But it's still it has a degree of difference of American horror films or even American crime films. It's still
yeah.
different.
Yeah, there's that Italian component that
And
is
then the
very
coloring,
distinctly
the
Italian.
coloring's
Oh
wild. The
yeah,
lighting they used is
it's often
amazing.
like real saturated and whatnot. It works very effectively for what it is, and I don't know how they thought of that, but however they decided that that was going to be what was effective. I don't know if it was done by accident at first, but it was one of those like, all right, you
Could
know
have
what?
been. It could have just been bad equipment, and all of a
Yeah,
sudden, boom.
and I really wouldn't be surprised if something was accidentally color graded the wrong way or something like that, and they were like, you know what, and it is what it is. We're going to go with it, and sure enough, then people are like, wow, this actually is really effective and brilliant, and it really highlights it, and it's kind of like, yeah, that's exactly what we were going for. Good on you, But no, in all seriousness, they probably had some deliberate motives behind it, and I think it was brilliantly done.
But
I love that
again,
book.
brilliant for the time because nobody else had thought to shoot like that or
Yeah,
do things like that.
yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And then jumping on the musical bandwagon there for a second. Actually, if you end up watching 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Now, I recommend watch the other one first. Watch 28
Yeah.
Years Later proper because they do lead into each other. And you probably heard this already, but the last maybe 2 or 3 minutes, if that, of 28 Years Later has this like huge 90-degree tonal shift to where it's kind of like almost you don't even like it's like is this the same movie? What the hell just happened? And a lot of people didn't like that, but knowing that they had another one coming out already and that they were clearly segueing like, okay, this part of this story is done. We're moving to something very different than that in the next film. I was fine with it. But with that said, in the second film, in 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, there's a large musical component. I don't want to spoil what happens, but there's something that happens where, like, there's a musical performance that needs to take place, and it helps drive the narrative. You'll know what I mean when you watch it, but it's one of those, like, all right, some people are going to think this is ridiculous, and other people are going to be like, yeah, it's going to be like one or the other. Kind of like
Hey,
with
I mean, sometimes you got to take risks on the camera and with the score. Is it going to work or not? And like you said, you're not going to please everybody, but it's going to work. It works.
yeah,
There's been
it's like
plenty of movies where things don't work, and it's like even then people are forgiven.
yeah.
But no, I look forward to seeing them. I think they should. They probably already are streaming. I don't know.
28 years is Bone Temple just finished its theater run, roughly speaking.
Yeah.
That probably has another month or so before it's out.
Yeah, it's weird. Some of them come out like almost while they're in theaters. Others, I gotta wait a little bit.
I sometimes that's nice, but other times that really pisses me off because I feel like it just cheapens the whole idea of cinema, and that's the last thing we need right now.
I think it cheapens it, but it
experience.
also makes the movie more inclusive because a lot of people, even post 2020, don't want to go to a movie theater.
Yeah.
And so they can see the same film. They're spending the $20 just the same. They don't get the popcorn.
Yeah. I mean, the problem, of course, is that the movies aren't going to make as much, and studios.
The theaters is what struggles. And the movie will make money because the movie's still making, the ticket price or the download fee. It's the theater that loses out.
They are, but the thing is that combined with streaming, you don't have a second spike in profit because you're not getting video sales anymore. Now it's just streaming, and it's almost the exact same time, and it's the thing that's causing a lot of studio execs and bigwigs to force certain creative decisions onto films. So like I don't know if you saw the thing that Matt Damon was talking about, but he mentioned some of this to where Netflix, in a lot of scenarios, has been requiring plot points to be reiterated multiple times in an episode or in a movie because they just expect that people aren't paying attention, and it's one of these, like, Jesus Christ, seriously.
But that's the producer that is, and unfortunately, I guess that's being part of the big scene.
Yeah, and it's tied into the fact that the bigwigs get more say and quality control over what they think is going to sell more. Now, I'm not just talking about streaming, but movies are even bigger components of that because it's like, all right, now we need to make a bigger box office because we're blowing this ridiculous amount.
So they're running it like a television network almost, and kind of figuring it on that rather than putting out quality film.
Yes and no. If it was a television program, there wouldn't be as much of a budget, and we'd there'd be more product available. If we're talking like old school television, not modern day television where half the time it's the same budget as a movie now.
That's what I'm saying. You got Netflix. Netflix runs TV series with, higher budgets than some of the movies get.
Yeah. I kind of feel this wouldn't be a cure-all, and this probably wouldn't work all the time, but something that I would like to see, I don't think it's going to happen, but something I think would be pretty cool would be if streaming stations, whether it be Netflix or whoever, if they made a deal with the theaters where if they have a movie that's going to be premiering on there, whether it's an exclusive or it's something that's just a movie and they're going to have it on their station, if let's say it's an original Netflix property, well, before it comes out, like maybe a month before or 2 months before, it gets a theater run. And if you have a subscription to that streaming station, that streaming service, you get a discount. If you want to go actually get the theater experience, you get 20% off your ticket prices or whatever it might be, and maybe even get a free popcorn or something.
But now you give the movie to a whole new audience of people that don't own Netflix.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But they're still selling their tickets, and then you fast forward a month or 2 months or whatever it is, it's not in the theaters anymore. Now it's on streaming. So the people who couldn't see it or didn't want to go to a theater, they've got that option.
And then by that
And
time, you could also actually drop technically a Blu-ray version or a steelbook
yeah,
version of
yeah.
something physical. I'm a physical media guy. I always try
Same
to
here.
buy it.
Same here.
I have a whole collection of films just because at the end of the day, these services lose rights every year to
Yep.
different films.
I completely agree with you, and I also think that eventually that bubble is going to burst because it's becoming too saturated. Like there are too many streaming stations. I think.
Yeah, I
that
mean now
bubble's
you got
gonna burst.
streaming stations just running found footage horror films. I mean you got
Yeah.
everything's got a niche streaming service. These movies are getting everywhere. It cheapens their movies because there's nothing wrong with Tubi, but Tubi's like the bottom of the totem pole. So when you hear someone's movies on Tubi and not Netflix, like, oh, they're on Tubi. Anybody's on. There's bullshit on because Tubi has such a wider range.
Yeah, they've got and I know they've tightened their standards since because their reputation was starting to go down. But prior to them doing that, holy shit. There's some
I mean,
stuff
I've
where you're
seen
looking like,
7 movies
really?
alone just on Daiku boxes,
Yeah.
horror films, and it's all the same plot with different actors. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
This
There's
is
some stuff
terrible.
that's great. There's some stuff like, don't get me. There are some things that I saw on Tubi that I wouldn't have seen otherwise, either because I didn't have it or because I
yeah.
didn't know
I
it
mean,
existed. But
to
there's
be fair,
also
like, I mean, I watched the
for
movie
every
Playground. It's a disturbing film, but it's on
yeah
Tubi. I watch these reels and they'll say like top 5 movies you shouldn't watch by yourself, and I'll just go and
yeah
watch all 5. And that was one of them, but I had to go to Tubi for it. Tubi has a bunch of great movies, like I said, but it just has such a wide variety. But people
yeah
throw the
it's
name out, oh, I'm just on Tubi, and people are like,
yeah. Well,
it
for
doesn't
every
have
like
the
one
same as.
or yeah, it's like well, for every one or two really good things, you're gonna run across 20 or 30 awful things. And
Well,
probably
like
10 or
back in the
15.
day, though, if you think about it, HBO didn't take any mid shit. They were like, either you're a good movie or you're not getting on.
Or you're gonna get on a certain time of night,
Yeah, you'll be on that 2 a.m. slot.
Yeah. Or you'll do what they did back in the day when they had pay-per-view in the 90s, where they had the 2 good pay-per-view channels where it was the large films, and then they had the lower tier pay-per-view channel that had the
Yeah.
straight to video stuff that you'd be able to see there. I distinctly remember that, and it was one
Well,
of
we
those.
had the black box, so we just had.
Oh,
all
so did
3
I. Yeah, I know. I just think the same
Yeah,
thing here. Yeah, I remember very distinctly Channel 64 where I was from. It was the lower tier pay-per-view where the straight to video stuff went,
Yep.
1 or 2 really good things followed by 3 or 4 really bad things,
Well, gentlemen, I don't mean to be a party pooper, but I gotta bail. But Versace, you are in good hands right now, Bobby with Versace Stoner. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, man.
Any links you want to shoot to me personally, I have no problem sharing and promote your products out.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, absolutely. What are you listed as on Facebook?
Oh, I'm Project Unknown.
Project Unknown. Okay. I'm gonna write that down now because I'm gonna forget otherwise. I literally have a pen and paper. I will forget otherwise.
Or just watch the video again and you see Project Unknown down below. Simple. But I hate to bail on you guys, but thank you very much for coming on. Versace, you got the ball, and I'll see you later.
Take care, man.
Have a good one, Victor. Let's see what happens here.
And now there are 2 circles.
Yeah, now we're down to 2. No, we were just about wrapping it up. Anyways, around like an hour, but. I can get talking about good movies or just movies in general because I do find when you find other movie lovers, you end up talking about things that just the normal person doesn't talk about when it comes to a movie.
Yeah.
Or they can talk about movies that just aren't the biggest mainstream thing happening. Some people just know the biggest names and that's it. It's like, okay, well, that's cool too. I watch all the obscure films, the French films, the German films, all these weird films, Turkish films. And then I watch all the American stuff, and then I compare the 2 because some of them have remakes. I've watched what was I watching earlier? Speak No Evil, and then I watched its American counterpart. And honestly, I think the original was better. Keep the ending bleak. But I do find that interesting comparing different countries and cultures because of the endings. They will be bleak. Where American, we love blockbusters. We need heroes and superhero endings with big cinematics and a hero. And in other countries, it's like, you know what? Everybody dies. Let's end it. Bye.
That's like
They
in The
just-
Vanishing. If you've seen the movie The Vanishing.
yeah.
No. Now I've only seen the American version. I know what happens in the other version. I could imagine that scenario being like, okay, I see why they did that, but it still pisses me off. So under those circumstances, I'm like, okay, it's okay that this person didn't suffocate, you know. But other there are definitely those other scenarios where the original work just is better. You know, it depends on what it is. There's a fair amount that I need to see the original of. Definitely with the Japanese and Thai cinema, I'm kind of neck and neck. There's some stuff to where I only saw the original, and some stuff to where I only saw the American remake. And
Yeah.
there are some that pulled it off. Some of the remakes pulled it off well, and others I'm like, man, this ain't even close to the original one. Like Shutter is a good example in my opinion. If you've
I think the
seen that
original
one.
was better in that
Yeah,
America. It was just too Americanized. But
way
like,
better, way better.
I mean, while I do like the original version of One Missed Call, the American version wasn't terrible.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I was thinking of a different movie for a second there, but it depends. And that also didn't that one come out in like the mid 2000s, mid or late 2000s?
Yeah, like 2006 ish, 7 ish, around
Yeah.
that time.
Because that was right around that point in time where they were remaking everything and everything's grandmother, you know. And there were a couple of good ones, but I also remember there being just a frustrating number of bad ones. Where I was like, "What? This didn't even need to be."
Well, you had almost all the Japanese. They took Dark Water, they remade it. They took, The
Yeah.
Ring was being remade. All the Grudges were being remade. People were just
Yeah.
taking all these movies and bringing it to the American side. Some of them were coming in good. Some of them were coming in bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
I did
Ring,
like
I think.
I did like the Grudge. I like the first Ring movie.
I like the first. I think the first Ring was fine. I don't even think it needs to be compared to its Japanese counterpart. It's its
Yeah.
own thing. It's its own
Mhm.
entity.
Yeah.
The Grudge was good because it had good actors, but it also had good atmospherics. I thought they did a good
Yes.
job keeping it creepy.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Second one was pretty good too. Third one did a good job explaining some stuff, but the actual movie itself wasn't too great, unfortunately.
Yeah, it wasn't the worst. If I remember the third, I don't think it was the worst film, but it was like
Yeah, where the sister
it
comes
was
into
kind
play.
of like it was a tie-in almost. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that
sometimes,
was-
years later, they want to see that they did it with Blair Witch. They made that 2020 version or whatever,
Yeah.
2017 version, where they kind of bring it back. And it's like, it's not the worst. It's nice for reminiscence, but it's not the best either.
Yeah. And that's the type of movie that, you know, making more and continuing it as a found footage, it's kind of like, well, how many times are you going to do this with the same like
Well, then it fails because look
Yeah,
at the
give it
Hell
credit.
House. Look at the Hell House movies. They couldn't even
Yeah.
finish the last one as a found footage. They had to turn it into something else.
Yeah.
And people were pissed about that.
Well, they did that with the Wreck movies, but I actually thought it was a smart move, where the first two Wreck movies were found footage, and the second one picks up right where the first one leaves off. That makes sense. The third one, I remember that it was the hybrid,
Yep.
and the reason I didn't like that one very much is because they started making it silly. I remember there were moments where they tried adding comedy in, and I was like, "That's not the kind of movie for this. Like this is the wrong franchise." But then,
Yeah.
the
You
fourth
want it to
one-
be disgusting and grotesque.
yeah, like
and
just
kind of
straight,
icky
like
feeling.
straight horror. And the fourth one, though, the fourth Wreck movie was not found footage. I think it was not found footage at all, or maybe like the opening scene, and that was it. And I thought that was a good choice because by that point, it wouldn't have made sense where the story was for all of it to have been told with a handheld camera. Like they needed to expand that, and I was fine with that. I thought that actually made sense. Kind of like if they made a proper sequel, not just some bullshit spinoff to Cloverfield, it probably would make sense that it would just be a regular movie and not a second found footage movie, you know?
Well, I mean, with Cloverfield, they kind of made a universe out of one movie.
Yeah.
They just kind of went all these different directions.
Weird,
different
a
films.
really weird, disjointed one that they never got to really fully state. I liked some of the ideas in those other movies, but I found a lot of it frustrating because it's just kind of like, just give us the movie that we actually want. Give us an actual sequel to this.
I didn't mind the one in the bunker just because it was kind of creepy.
Yeah, that was fine. It was the paradox one that was pissing me
Yeah,
off.
then you had the split realities and they're in space. And it's like, what are we doing here? You just
Mhm.
brought it into space. And I think once a horror movie goes into space, you've killed it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Unless
you
it
got
started there.
Leprechauns out there, you got Hellraiser out there, you got Jason out there. It
Yeah,
doesn't really end well.
I did like the Hellraiser one. I actually liked
Well,
that.
that
I
one
thought,
made sense because it was the
yeah,
future.
yeah, that made total sense. And with it being the ship was the box, like that made total sense. Um, but yeah, when you take
When
a
you start
slasher
getting into
character,
that domain, it's just kind of like, okay,
yeah,
now we're getting out of reality here.
yeah,
It becomes
when you
less
take
scary.
a grounded slasher character, and by grounded I don't mean realistic so much as I mean like in a compared to space in a very small world, and you're going to put them out and it just doesn't make any goddamn sense. You know, it like it's one of these, all right, now this is silly
I
types of
mean, I know Jason was
situations.
there. Just, I mean, I guess you could say Jason lives forever, so it was the future. They had to do something okay, but the Leprechaun was just wild to
Oh
me,
god, that was so stupid.
and it's just like, okay. I mean, not that any of those movies passed the first one.
That
They
was
had their
literally, remember
stars.
what I was just saying about like the lower tier pay-per-view
The
channel.
Leprechauns would be on the
That was what
Leprechaun
was on it.
2.
That was where I saw that fucking movie. Yeah, the Leprechaun 4, the one in space. It was the most
Yeah,
ridiculous shit I've ever seen.
it was.
He gets blown up at the end and he's giving him the finger. You know?
And then he goes to the hood in the next one. But
Oh, and the one after that too. Like he couldn't
yeah,
go
you
to the
got
hood
you
once.
got
No.
2 hood movies. It was so
Yeah.
good. They brought him back. But I think Mike Levy did a nice job kind of doing a little remake of that, a reboot, and bringing Mark in and
Uh,
having kind of the same characters and bringing that into it. You know, because the
Still need to see
original
that
one I
one.
think is a beautiful movie. It's just that
The
they
original's
probably
well
shouldn't have
done.
made more.
Yeah, the original should have been a one and done. I honestly, just as far as like quality goes, I don't really like any of the sequels. I mean, they're silly. They can be ridiculously entertaining, but they're not good movies.
No,
The
I mean
first
even
one's
the
actually
effects
decent.
and when he's in Vegas, he makes the girl's boobs blow up. But the
Yeah,
effects are cheap. It's just eh. But as a
yeah,
kid now, yes, you would probably have put on the black box, see this ad, and I'd be like, ah, this is good shit. Because you're like, 12, 13 years old, and it's entertaining as a kid, and you nothing else on. You have no other choices.
yeah, yeah. There's stuff that I've definitely watched after that. After that age, I'm like, this is not what I remember it being. There's other stuff that surprised me. I'm like, wow, this totally holds up. But there's a lot to where I'm like, man, this
Yeah,
is not how I
I'm
remember
all, honestly, when I try to go back, sometimes I'm just not. I'm just like, wow, I really like that film. Huh? I'm just like, eh.
it.
But then I go back to movies that I wasn't interested or I thought were boring, and now I love them because I just didn't have the patience. They weren't these high impact movies. They were very, they had a different kind of sense of horror. They were more thoughtful or more calculating or
Yeah,
more just mindful rather than a slasher or a chaser movie. So it was like, okay, now I'm like enjoying all these older flicks. As a
yeah.
kid, I probably wouldn't like any Jalos. I'd be like, oh, what's this shit?
Eh, I kind of got lucky. I didn't have the foreign stuff, but I did have a variety due to the video store that wasn't too far from me. Even when I was really little, there were a whole bunch of just you know golden movies. I remember John Carpenter's The Thing
Yeah.
was one I watched over and over again as a kid, and if you go a little later, I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and we didn't own this, so it must have been a rental at the time. But the original Jacob's Ladder
Oh
was,
yeah.
is one of my favorite movies, just
Good movie.
across the board, one of my all-time favorite movies. And I remember watching it then. I was like, again, like 7 or 8 years old, and I thought the movie was great. And I understood what happened. I might not have understood 100%, but I understood at least like 85 or 90% of it. Maybe some of the nuancy stuff I didn't catch on to. But I remember it was one of those movies that just stuck with me. I was like, man, that was a good movie. And it was years later when I got a copy of it myself and watched it again. I was like, yeah, oh, wow, I actually did understand this when I was a kid. Okay, yeah, that's what happened. Awesome. And
Good movie though. Good one.
unfortunately, I think that kind of movie, there are two kinds of audiences. One is people who will still not see what's happening coming. But then there are people who, due to anything from The Sixth Sense up to now, like just being exposed to that kind of a twist, like they might be able to call it before it happens.
There's little hints or foreshadows that things might not be what they seem, or
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, because we have even like movie like The Others, at the end of The Others,
That was
everybody's
a
like,
that was a
oh
very effective one. It came out a little too close in proximity to The Sixth Sense, but it was a really good movie. I really like that movie.
yeah, they did a good job with that, and and again, you didn't know what the voices were until the end. And the Sixth Sense, again, having the iconic scenes and such, and the big cast and crew in that, I think it really brought it out there. And I think a lot of people not really. They use the technique, but again, they have to use it subtly or kind of just use it in sparingly because people will recognize it.
Yeah, and
Or
that was why.
they'll call it right from the
Yep.
beginning.
Well, that was why M. Night started to kind of burn out a little because everything had to have a surprise ending, and the endings got more ridiculous as he went. Like Sixth Sense and Unbreakable were both excellent. Signs, I think it's a great movie, and I'm willing to kind of overlook the surprise at the end, but at the same time, you mean to tell me these fucking things didn't realize water was going to damage them? They've been scoping our planet out for how long, and our planet's covered mostly with water.
Yeah, I
And
mean
it
that
rains
was
a lot
kind of
too.
just
Like they never experienced rain before, or dew on plants or anything. Um. So that was
no,
where
but then he went into like what was it
the happening.
the
That was,
happening.
oh my god.
I thought it was good until a certain point.
Yeah. Same.
And then it turned, and then it was like, okay, this movie is trash because he doesn't have a clear sense of where this wants to go. The twist ending isn't going to be twisted; it's going to be stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, okay, now it sucks. But because everything leading up to it had this crazy vibe of what's
Yeah.
going on in the
I would
world. Is it
say
chemical,
even like what, like
biological?
the first maybe the first third of the movie was rather
Yeah.
good. Once they got to a certain point, it seemed like they slash he, if it was just him, uh didn't know where to take it in a way that was going to make sense. And like it starts to fall off the rails once they're out of the city for a very long time. I remember like there's just a certain point. It was probably around the time that John Leguizamo's character splits off from them.
Yeah.
It just gets sillier and sillier from there. It gets less believable and more ridiculous from what I remember.
Yeah, because I mean, and also I think the scale of it, you got instead of just having a small group of people trying to survive, now you got all these people trying to survive. And so it changes the dynamic of the movie into this intimate experience of getting to know 4 or 5 characters and trying to see all the
Yeah.
group. And it's just like, and where are
And
we going with this? And what is causing this? I think the beginning of them not knowing, is it bioengineered? Is it
yes.
a chemical attack? Is it a nuclear? What is
Hmm.
going on
You
here?
took the words out of my mouth. I was literally going to say, like, I think the reveal was the worst thing they could have done in that movie of, oh, it's the plants. Not that that's a twist at the end. It happens like what, midway through the movie, but they should have left it unexplained. They should have left it
Yeah.
at just like a phenomenon that never got explained.
Leave
And
people thinking, what is
yeah,
this?
because he probably tried to have some environmentalist message in there, but it was so silly that it didn't work. I would have loved it if we didn't even know what caused it, and like maybe they could pick up on the pattern of how it's kind of traveling and affecting people, but they still know where it's coming from.
Well, I mean, imagine if we never knew that it was the villagers in the village and he just ended it in a certain point. It would have been kind of probably spooky at the end. People were like, what the hell? What the hell?
Yeah, yeah, he definitely that movie in the village. It seemed like he tried to backtrack or backpedal on some of the creative decisions he made, but in the process made it worse.
Yeah.
That was definitely again, the movie had potential. It definitely
It
had
did,
potential.
and the message and the twist and all that is fine because I think if you lead it up a certain way, but it got just kind of too goofy or too weird or
Yeah,
it just kind of loses its horror at some point. Most of his movies, I feel, at some point loses the horror sense and becomes almost. It's not sci-fi, but it's almost just like
it's
very
kind of just there.
fictiony. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's just everywhere. It's just magical.
yeah. I mean, in some
And
movies it works well because there's a drama component that works very effectively, but it's not all of them.
well, it depends what you like. You said his real life movies or the movies that take place in the modern world or in societies. Where you do have these characters like Unbreakable and such. It worked very, very well as directing style and just bringing that all together. It's when he had to think kind of outside the box and he was making these, well, what's going to be the killer? What's going to be the message? Or what's going to be the situation here?
Yeah,
It's kind of where he started to lose focus on it. Because all the
Yep.
movies, like you said, they have a message. There was an environmental in that. There's, message in the villages about, people being kind of, shadowed by the government or put down or not shown the whole truth.
Yeah.
It's conspiracy, theorist dreams, to see these kind of things. You hear people now, we can go to Antarctica and see another world. And it's like it plays on that. You got people of authority holding you back. And I get all that, but just the deliverance in it. But yeah, I mean, for what it is, I still think that some of the movies do hold cinematic value, even though they weren't that good, because they,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
show they show promises or parts of them are great, or even certain shots and scenes are really done fantastically.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, man. There are definitely those that one that didn't over explain, and as a result, there were definitely you were left with more questions, but I was okay with it in this situation. Was that movie Us? Did you see Us by chance?
I like Us.
Yeah, I thought that was very and that was a movie I didn't think I was gonna like. And as it went, there were parts of it that I was like, this is going to frustrate me more than anything else. But they did it in a way to where that didn't end up becoming the case. I ended up actually really enjoying the movie. Like there was a good amount of it to where like the dad was pissing me off. I was like, dude, fucking do something, man. Protect your family. What the hell is the matter with you, you beta fuck? But past a certain point, finally, like he gets in a certain fight or flight mode when he's on the boat and starts fighting back, and it's like, oh, thank you. Like once that happened, and people started having a more reaction towards like, yeah, you're going to protect your family, not just act like some little bitch. Once that happened, I was like on board, and I really enjoyed the way that they kind of showed both sides of the world, and they were showing the way that the doppelgangers were living. I really enjoyed that. Now I will say, I called it. I definitely called it before it happened. The as far as the very end of that movie, I was like,
Yeah.
and as soon as they showed a flashback to her as a kid again, I was like, I fucking knew it. It was like I knew that was the case. But I was okay with that
Well,
because
that's like like
it
the
was
movie The
unsettling,
Visit.
you know.
I called the movie The Visit when I was watching it, but I thought it was done very well at the end, where they're not with the grandparents and it's somebody totally different. It's two strange, fucked up old people,
Yeah,
and the daughter's there, and I'm just like, oh god.
there was
But I mean,
I'm forgetting what I was. I had it in mind and now it's gone. Never mind.
that's the thing with these movies. Sometimes there's a twist in the end, or sometimes it's like right in the beginning, and then it tries to explain stuff. Like I recently just watched The Coffee Table, crazy movie. If you haven't seen it, it's
I haven't
Spanish
seen it.
film.
No, I've not seen that.
It's definitely worth the watch. It's a little bit of a hard watch in some sense, but they bring up comedy and such, so it's relatable. You being a parent is what makes it scary, just because we
Ah,
probably all had this thought go through our head when we were in the younger stages of parenthood.
okay.
But when it happens and everything, there is this comedy sense to this horror, but it's also just the whole tension, the idea of him having to deal with it and deal with the whole evening. And
Mm,
it's very. I thought it did a really good job, and it as being a different horror film where it doesn't involve, a killer, a masked man, some serial
yeah.
supernatural killer. Just life just happened. How do we handle it?
Okay. I got
It's
to keep that
definitely
in
worth a
mind.
check out. Like I said, I try to watch these kind of different films, and that one came across my board. Someone said check it out. I was talking with the director of Baskin, and he actually got asked to make a Turkish remake of the movie called The Turkish Coffee Table. So he was going to be directing and working on that. And so I went back and watched the original one, and that's kind of how I got into it. But I know it's streaming somewhere. It might be Tubi actually. But yeah, definitely worth the watch. We are just about out of time. Where can folks find you if they want to follow you and see all your projects and such?
Two spots really. I don't have a million different social media things. I only am really sticking with two that I follow regularly. Technically three. Facebook, which is just my name, the way it's spelled right there, just Bobby Carra, and then my same name on Instagram. Although I'm more actively on Facebook and more actively posting on there, just because I think the platform is a little more user friendly for what I do.
Yep.
I'll still pop on Instagram here and there. The other one is my YouTube channel, which is just Bobby Music Composer, just all three of those words, no spaces, and each word starts with a capital letter. And that's where you can find some samples of my work. I do need to update it. There were about 6 or 7 projects at least with music that I need to create some edited versions of to have some samples on YouTube of, and so I need to get on that. But I have to finish the projects I'm in the middle of right now before I'd have time to technically do that. You'll still be able to see a fair amount of my work. I got some of my music loaded up from a variety of different films I've worked on.
Awesome. I look forward to checking that out as well and seeing what else you got in the works coming up and so forth. I'm sure I can find that all through your Facebook and
Yeah,
such.
I've been posting about it, and there's a few other things that are going to be coming out relatively soon, so I'll probably be a little more actively mentioning that stuff as well. There's a project that just got attached to that it won't actually be filmed for about a year because they want to make sure that they have the appropriate funding and the appropriate cast and crew and the location right. But it's a Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street fan project. It's
Oh, nice.
yeah, this one I'm very much looking forward to. It's they're calling it Nightmare on Crystal Lake, I believe,
Oh,
or
that's
Nightmare on
fun.
Friday. It's either that or Nightmare on Friday the 13th. I believe it's just Nightmare on Crystal Lake, though. I could be wrong. There's been more than one title, so don't quote me on it.
Yeah.
But this particular one takes place in the 80s, so it's as if instead of Freddy versus Jason in 2003, we're putting those two characters in a situation where they were kind of at the height of their popularity and where most of their films came out. And this is going to be less comedic. It's not going to have like one-liner comedy Freddy, who's all of a sudden pulling out kung fu moves like he's in the Matrix or something. In this, it's like sinister, dark,
You're getting
sadistic Freddy.
almost that Freddy from that new
The
Nightmare
first,
Freddy, when
well,
he broke the meta.
yeah, or even I would say from the first 2 movies is the best way
Yeah.
to put it. Where he is just sadistic and evil, and that is it. And then the Jason that's in this one probably will be moving more than half a mile an hour, but 2 is brutal. I've read the script for the version of it as it currently exists, and it is absolutely, he does some brutal shit just in the short film version that we've got that we're working on right now, and he's going to have his Part 7 New Blood look, which is one of his, in my opinion, one of Jason's best looks.
Yep.
So the story is rather good in this. I'm really liking the direction it takes, and that's just with the first short film. It'll eventually either get later installments and just be a bunch of short film
Like an
installments,
anthology or so. Or become a
yeah,
feature.
or B, it'll just all be turned into a feature, maybe more than one feature. But it's a really cool looking project, and the like Freddy's got like, it looks like he's going to have his Part 2 look. So that's my favorite look for Freddy.
Yeah.
That's where he looked the scariest in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I think he was very creepy in that one. They made him
Yeah.
just extra, I think, evil in that one.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Eventually, Freddy became a household name, and kids wanted to be him, so they softened him up and they made him funny. And
Yeah.
he became silly by 5, and he was known for jokes and so forth. And while it worked, it was still scary. That original "Nothing Will Be Scary" is when you first saw him, coming through the alleyway scratching, or what he
With
pulls into
the hands extended,
with
or
the
when he sliced
hands
the girl and dragged her. I mean, that and the second film, I'd say as well. Like, because
the
those 2
scenes in
movies
that
are,
still get to me.
they're both legitimately unsettling. They get under your skin, and that's the version of Freddy that's going to be in this project, which
that's going to be good. I honestly, I look forward to kind of following that kind of stuff. I'm a big fan of fan films. I love seeing what fans can do with these franchises, because a lot of them can take it in directions where the fans want it to go, and not where the producers or the bigwigs are saying it has to go.
Yeah, I hear you. There's actually 2 other fan projects that I'm on right now as well. That's one, and there are 2 other Friday projects I'm on. One is they're calling it just Jason Chapter 1. The guy's planning on turning it into like 3 parts, and he's just going right at the gates. He wants to make it features. I know it got delayed because there was an emergency in his family. He has to take care of that before he can return to anything in pre-production right now. But Jason will be more like he was in the first 4 movies. So he's going to be like kind of like a hunter, and he can run
more
and so
human.
on.
He has more of that human aspect.
So he looks completely different than the Jason that's in the project I just mentioned. And then there's the one called Jason's Fury, which is the most outlandish of them. And what I mean by that is it's got the most exaggerated story. It's literally a sequel to Jason Goes to Hell, and it's also a sequel to the fan film Roseblood at the same time. If you've seen that, but it's a movie that has alternate dimensions and universes, and it's a crazy story. There's going to be more than one Jason in it. I'm literally over the next few weeks. I'm going to be, for the promo they're going to be doing. There's a rhyme, like a Crystal Lake rhyme, kind of similar to Freddy's thing, but its own thing. Where it's like the folklore that the kids have, like the campers have passed along since the Legend of Jason, and I'm going to take the lyrics that I was given by the writer and director. I'm actually going to have my kids and maybe some of their friends or whatnot, if they want, recite them, and then I've got to set music to it as well.
Oh, nice! Make it like a chant kind of deal.
Yeah. So it'll end up being in the promo, and they're going to do like a teaser of sorts in about a month, and so they want to have it ready for that. So that'll be a lot of fun.
That's exciting. That looks like fun and sounds like fun. I love it. And thanks again for coming on. I love talking horror. You're a great guest. You know all your stuff. You know everything.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
And you know your cinema, which is great too. Because some people just know the horror, but you know it all. You have a good palette there, sir, of cinema.
I've seen a lot of movies.
Yes, right. I mean, you think about it, how many we've watched in our lifetime. It's quite amazing because I don't think today's kids are going to get that same experience because they don't have that waiting for their favorite movie. They're not sitting there. They're watching YouTube or short videos or shorts or something else. They're not sitting there watching full cinematic movies and like we were as kids.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be learned in it, not just the lessons that they taught, but also if you want to be in this industry, like just picking up or learning different things that keep getting repeated in cycles and so forth. You understand them as they go through.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
And it helps you later in life when you want to make music for them, when you want to shoot, when you want to film, when you want to make sure whatever you want to do, it just helps. But I will stand on that hill. Like the musical, the formal education I got, the informal musical education I got before I went to school for it, and also just the movies I've watched like constantly. It's they all contributed to how I kind of approach things now. Oh yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming on. I can't wait to check your projects out. Thank you very much for watching.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
We really do. We loved it. It was a great time. And thank you everybody at home for watching. As always, please
thanks a lot, guys.
And check out all the cool stuff. We're gonna make sure to post the links in such way you can find all the YouTubes and such in the links. But yes, thank you everybody. Good night.
Take